Today we're being interviewed for a change instead of interviewing someone else. From the Southside Weekly, Zach Goldhammer is in the house. It's good to meet your acquaintance again.
Yeah, we met at the Record Store Day party a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
We actually featured PJ Willis in our special issue, which came out 3 weeks ago. And yeah, we did a whole interview about your career. Now I guess we're going to talk a little bit about it and also about some of the stuff that's come up since then.
Okay.
So just to reiterate, my name is Zach Goldhammer. I'm the music editor for the Southside Weekly, and I'm here with PJ Willis. So, PJ, we've interviewed a couple of the other members of the Dusty's crew, and they've described you as a walking encyclopedia of soul. Can you talk a little bit about how you became that way and what the backstory is there?
People. Because I never claimed to be any of that. And I was just asking Gary, how did I get that title? Because pretty much what it is I guess they go off of the fact that I do give a lot of history of a lot of the records that I play with, due to the fact that I grew up in Chicago with a lot of the artists, because I play a lot of Chicago records. And by me telling some of the stories, not that I read stuff, but stuff that they've talked to me about, because I'm not as old as a lot of the artists in which I play on the show. But when I was old enough to travel around, I started hanging out where they were, and once they got used to me, we just became friends. Especially after I got into the radio thing where I can play their records, we really became friends. And so therefore, just listening to the stories that they've told me over the years that I've interviewed them and hung out with them and that kind of thing, gave me a wealth of knowledge. And then hanging out with people like Richard and Herb, who were there when those records were actually being made, and being a part of breaking those as new records.
That's Richard P. and Herb Kent.
Yes, right. Exactly. And so therefore, I just learned a lot of the stuff that I play.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And you're still building relationships with some of those people. You're still good friends with Ruby Andrews, right?
Yeah, that's my sister. That's my heart. I'm going to tell you, I love Ruby.
And you're also working with one of the former members of the Impressions now, is that right?
Reggie Torian Sr. He's now the lead vocalist of the group. He was brought in by Curtis. Mm-hmm. When Curtis left, Curtis wanted him to be one of the members of the group, and so he's now the lead singer and doing well at it.
Can you talk a little bit about how that project got started between you and him and what the current status of it is? Well,
Reggie and I were bumping to each other at a lot of different events. And when we really started talking, he had an album, Daddy's Love. He's going to kill me. Daddy Loves. Daddy Loves. There it is. Because I had another friend had one called Daddy's Love, but Daddy Loves.
Yeah.
And what it was he was working with Carl Davis's Shot Sound 2, Carl's brother and nephew. And he wasn't really happy with the arrangements that there was, but since Reggie was smart enough to own the publishing, own the rights to everything, he had the right to take the product anywhere he wanted to take it. Mm-hmm. And he said, okay, well, you're doing the record business. Why don't we talk? And I was like, well, sure. So we sat, we talked and ran over some things, and next thing you know, he was on Even If. and we worked together and been friends ever since.
Cool. So you're working on that, but you're also still doing the Dusty's crew, which you've been doing for how long now?
I've been here since 2009.
All right, 2009, but you've been on the radio for about 30 years, is that
34.
Right? 34.
Yeah, this was 34 years.
Can you talk about your first job and how you ended up here at the Dusty's crew now?
Well, the first thing, Tom Joyner, JPC, I used to listen to them every morning on my way to school because I was still in school when I started. And they did this rap back in 79. The Christmas Delight is a parody of Rapper's Delight, but it was a Christmas thing. Right. And Tom Joyner played it. And the first time he played it, I don't know how, he doesn't know how, God's a great God, because it gave me the ability to strike enough nerve to put me where I am today. And he played it, and I stood there and I listened to it as they played it, because they used the music of Rapper's Delight, the Good Times riff. Yeah. And as soon as he played it, I picked it up the telephone, that is, and called him. Mm-hmm. And he went, JPC, Tom Joyner. And I went, now every morning the first sound you hear me, Tom Joyner, yelling in your ear, your morning DJ of the year, just bringing you a little bit of Christmas cheer. The wind is blowing and the air is cold. Chicago winters are always bold. When the cold air turns and it's hard and brittle, just tune in to LaDonna Tittle.
You still know it 30 years later?
30 years later. And he said, wait a minute, who this? I said, it's me. I got to go to school. And I hung up the phone. And I went to school. And they record everything back in them days. And as I'm sitting there doing my work in school with my head down and my pen, listening to the radio, all of a sudden he goes, I got to play this back. Gentleman called me and did this. He said, I don't know how he learned it just that quick. I just played it. But he said his name was PJ, and I got to play this. And then I heard me on the radio. I said, drop the pen. I'm on the radio. And the teacher walked over and snatched the plug out of the radio, and the whole class heard it. And after that, go ahead, Willis. He said, that was beautiful. Now get out of my class. I said, what did I do? You don't listen to the radio in my class. So I called Tom and said, she kicked me out. You got me kicked out of class. And he said, so you're the guy. He said, I thought that was pretty cool. And we left it at that. A year later, when they went 24 hours, they did it again, changed a few words and added a few people. Yeah. So I called them back and rapped it again. He said, oh, no, you don't get off that easy. So he brought me down to Rib Supreme over on the west side and put me on the radio live. Mm-hmm. And when I got home, everybody in the neighborhood, and then again, everybody was happy. And so again, I called Tom. I said, man, the girls was nuts. He was like, it was nice, wasn't it? I said, yeah, it was. I said, man, well, unfortunately, it was just that one. He said, I'll tell you what you can do. He said, you want to come down and hang a little bit? So I did. And they let me do commercials and voiceovers and things like that. And as he decided he was leaving JPC to do Ebony Jet Showcase, he said, you got such a great knack for radio. Kennedy King has a radio station not far from your house. Yep. And I walked up there one day, and KKC became it. Mm-hmm. So I've been doing it because he told me, learn the business, and you'll be in it forever. Yep. And 34 years later, he was correct. I'm still doing it.
Do you remember the commercials that you did, any of the voiceovers?
I remember Walgreens was being one. There's a couple of other ones that were like hit and goes. They weren't no big thing. I just did like a tagline and not an exact whole commercial. And then I did the voice on the top, the ID, WJPC 9:50 a.m. Chicago, and I did like, if it was a reggae, it's a super reggae weekend, man, or it's a soul Sunday, or so, I did voiceover tags and and it was all fun, and I loved it, because it made me an instant star in the neighborhood.
Yeah, everybody knew you.
And so for me to go from there to Kennedy King, and then they actually put me on the radio, and I started hosting with somebody, and then became, somebody else to be reckoned with at KKC, it was tremendous. And then I used to always, I got to a point where I started making fun when I wanted to play an old record of Richard Peggy. Mm-hmm. This is Ricky Piggers, and it's time for some Roll Rusty, and I'll play one of the songs. And Aaron Rayner, I don't know where Aaron is to this day, came and said, you should stop that because Richard listens to you. Oh, no. And he's not happy. And I'm like, yeah, right, who cares? One of those kind of numbers. Lord help me. I started promoting records that year, and I walked into the office at GCI, and who was program director? Mr. McGee himself. And I was giving him the spiel on my record. The artist is Mr. Kofei. The backup group is Omni. They had a couple of hit records, and You Make It Happen, and such. And I handed him the record. He looked at it and threw it across the desk. He said, that's nice. Now close the door on your way out. I said, I wasn't finished. He said, yes, you were. And I was like, oh, wow.
But you later became sort of a student of Richard Keys, right? You guys became close in some sense?
Yeah, eventually we got real close. Yeah. We became very, very good friends. Because Richard realized at some point he and I were pretty much one of the same. And it's not like I copied Richard or anything. That's just how I did things. He produced records. I was trying to produce records. He did commercials. I did commercials. We had really the same life. I was just a younger version of what he did. And when he realized I was all into that, he immediately locked in, and we started doing a whole lot of things together. DJing sets and things like that. It was really a great relationship. And that's kind of what brought me to HPK.
Yeah, so can you talk about how Richard P's influence is carried through to the Dusty's crew and what you guys are doing here?
Well, as Gary said earlier, around 2009, March, I can't remember the exact date, March of 2009, Richard passed. And he was attempting to come back here to HPK and do some more radio work here. And unfortunately, the week that Richard passed, we were just talking that Saturday because him and I were working on his MySpace page. And he told me, you need to get back into radio. And I said, I'm in radio. He said, I don't mean the gospel. I mean doing what we do, the oldies. He said, you were good at it and you should get back in it. And I said, well, it's nothing out there. Everything is taken. Nobody's giving up nothing. And he says, I know, it's a shame. Somebody has to die in order for somebody to get ahead. And I said, yeah, right. And I said, well, I'll talk to you Monday, because he was doing a senior set at one of the senior citizens buildings on Monday. He said, I'll call you on the way from the set.
Mm-hmm.
On the way from the set is when he had the heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at home waiting for him to show the time he was supposed to call me. And when I got the call, instead of him, it was Jackson Park Hospital. Mm-hmm. And they told me he was there and he had my card in his hand. That's why they contacted me. So after all that had happened, Gary called me and asked me about coming in. He said, you're the only one we know that plays, and your format is as closest to Rich than anybody we know, period, can do. Because you have the whole timeline, the 50s clear through. You got it. And I told him, he was being nice when we talked. I told him no. I told him no, because what was echoing in my head was Richard saying to me, someone has to die for someone else to get ahead. And I was like, I refuse to be that somebody. Yeah. And I really just would not do it. But even at Richard's service, I walked in the door, and the guy from Channel 5 stuck a mic in my face. You're PJ, we were waiting on you, and we want you to say so. And I went totally left field on the dude. I really snapped off. Mm-hmm. And Gary was like, you got to stop that. You can't go off on everybody. And I said, they need to leave me alone. And he had to explain to me, he says, for you being in as long as you've been in, people know who you are. Mm-hmm. They consider you a legend, whether you like it or not. Mm-hmm. That's what you have to deal with. So he kind of gave me a kick in the pants and had to show me some reality of what was going on, because I didn't think nothing of that. I just like playing old records. That's the way I look at it. It's no big deal to me. Mm-hmm. But people that are enjoying what they're hearing look at it in a whole different light. And Gary had to kind of bring me into that way of thinking of what was going on, because I was like, man, screw that. And that was my attitude. And I still kept saying no, I didn't want it. Then Ray Hayden, who's been with me, Lord, I love Ray, because he, along with Gary, Ray says, now, here's the question. Do you think Richard would like the way you acting right now? Do you think he wants you to act that and turn it down, and just because he's no longer here? I said, well, no. He said, then what is your problem? Mm-hmm. And I said, I hate it when y'all write. Y'all get on my nerves. So I called Gary and said, okay, we'll do it.
So that was the turning point when we put
right. I said, but just give me at least a month to get my head and everything together. He said, well, take your time, and whenever you feel you're ready, we can do it. And I thank him for giving me the opportunity to get back in and do it.
So when you guys first started doing the show, did you feel a little rusty? Was the chemistry off, or you guys have it going right away?
No, I stepped right in like I never left. Like I had. He showed me this is this is this, this and this, and I was like, oh, I got it, and didn't miss a beat. Cool. Except for when it was commercial time. When we went to the PSAs, I grabbed like 3 of them, and neither one of them would work, and I got highly upset. And all of a sudden, Richard's voice started ringing in my head. Don't ever let that happen again. And that next week, although it wasn't my week, I was sitting over there recording every PSA I know would work. Uh-huh. So I put it all in my laptop, so when it comes time for the break, I do it all off my lap. I don't trust nothing. That was his philosophy. Don't trust nothing. So I like him than I thought. But yeah.
So you still think about him a lot when you're doing these shows?
Yeah. A whole lot. Because I still use some of the drops. That's station identification for people that don't know what that is. I still use identification drops that uses his voice on a lot of stuff that I do here and over at the other radio station on Friday nights. And so therefore I miss him dearly. I really truly do, because it's so many things I feel myself proud of now that I would have loved to just pick up the phone. Richard, guess what? And I can't do it. And but I'm learning to live with it. Because it's been 5 years, so I'm finally coming down from his not being around as much. Mm-hmm.
But now you have a couple new partners with Andy and Gary, right? What's it like working with those two?
Well, I love the HPK crew. Yeah. I'm gonna tell you, we're like family. We just have a wonderful time. We support each other, and we just we got each other's back. Mm-hmm.
Can you describe sort of the different members and what they're like, what they bring to the crew? Well,
we do everything.
Yeah.
We do everything from top to bottom. Andy, who's got the greatest person. I love Andy. I will tell you, because he's got such a great attitude towards everything, but he's a no nonsense person. You know, let's do this. Don't play. Let's just do it. And you know, he's the come on, let's get it person. You know, he pushes us to do things. When we come up with ideas, he kind of helps us to make it happen. So when he's on, he plays the collective of some of everything, just here and there. He doesn't. There's no guidelines with him. He goes, like he says, from 85 and back. If he feels, oh, this is a great record, I'm going to play it. And he plays it. And that's just the way it is. Gary, on the other hand, Gary, he gets you from back in the day where people used to put an album on and let the album play. And there were cuts on that album that never made it to radio, but you loved it anyway. Gary would hit you one of those, and you could be doing something, stop and go, "Whoo, Lord have mercy!" and that's where he is.
Yeah.
And he's great at organizing things. You know, I'll come up with an idea, say, "What do you think about?" And he'll say, "Yeah, we can do," and we put it together and make it happen. George, his thing is totally different. He's more in that Steppers vein. So he'll come back with some Steppers classics, man, that you know, back in the day, we knew nothing about stepping. We didn't know the term. But when we hear some of the stuff we play, oh, that's what Mom and them was doing. I remember that right there. So his level is different, but it all fits into where we are. Me, on the other hand, I'm some of everywhere, but I quickly will take a chance, and I will dip back to something in the 50s on you in a heartbeat. You know, that because I love doo-wops, because I sang a little bit. I ain't the greatest, but I sang a little bit. And so, therefore, I will go from the Spinners to the Spaniards, from the Dells to the Delphonics, in a heartbeat. And the people that listen to what we do every Thursday love it. And it proves when we do soul reunions, because they come out there to see all of us. They're like, man, you guys ain't nothing like you. And you're right.
Can you talk a little bit about the soul reunions? You got a lot of famous stars who came through the record store last time, right?
Yeah. And it has grown since the first time we started doing it. Like Andy mentioned before, the first time we did it, because what it was, I got crazy. You know, I'm one that likes to push the envelope. You know, I like to vote for the underdog. I like to, you say the sky is blue. I said, no, that's turquoise. You know, I always see things in a different color. Yeah. And I told them one day, me and Ray was sitting down, I said, why don't we get everybody together, find a record store? You know, not just in your place, or find a place where they actually sell vinyl. Because this place up on Western, they sell vinyl. Why don't we talk to them about coming there, the whole crew of us, we get there and we do, thank you, and we just have all the listeners that we can get to come out. And he said, that would be a great idea. I said, well, let's run it back, Gary. And Gary said, it'll be fantastic, this, and this. And we organized it just that quick. And I said, what about Christmas Eve? And Gary looked at me like, what? Christmas Eve? I said, I know it sounds crazy, but I just want to see what would happen. I just want to see what would happen. And we had like all of one or two people. One person came from listening. One or two people that heard the music playing stopped through. But, you know, that kind of thing. And George was like, I knew this wasn't, you know, like Gulliver, Glum on Gulliver, I knew he wouldn't make it, you know. But I chose that because my thing is, there's a lot of people that don't celebrate Christmas. They don't get caught in the shopping rush, but I know that's what we were fighting against. And my mentality says, if we get one person, that means when the weather is good and everything is on our side, man, the people that can come is going to blow the hinges off the doors to come into the thing. And that's what started happening. Yeah. You know, and so I thank Gary for being smart enough to recognize, yeah, this is good. Let's do it. So we did it a couple of years over at Peabody's, and then they started having some issues where they couldn't keep it open. You know, and so therefore they ended up closing, and so we moved it over to High Park with Alexis. And he is such a wonderful person, because he saw the idea and went, yeah, I feel you. Let's do this. You know what I mean? Now, the first couple, he's like, yeah, okay, let's see what you got. You know, and then after the first two, he was just like, yeah, I want in. And from that point, we've been doing it. And we've had just a number of artists. Johnny Drummer, who's kind of on the blues side, of course. Andre Williams, Bobby Hutton, Ruby Andrews. We got Reggie Turin of the Impressions. One of the newer artists, because we do like some of the new artists to come down and meet some of the classic artists. T.L. Williams, who's got like one of the hottest records out right now.
Yeah, we're actually
Making more
interviewing
money
him
there.
for the weekly. He's going to be in the weekly next week.
He was the last artist to be signed to Carl Davis's label.
Mm-hmm.
And Carl told us, don't let him get away. Keep working with it, because Carl knew he had started getting sick, to the point where he was on oxygen. And so Gus and them stayed on top of it. And every step of the way, I did everything I could to help Gus and them keep him going. And then once the record hit, because we had him down there the year before. And once he exploded, because I told everybody, watch him, he's going to blow up quick and fast. So Lexus said, can we get him back now? He's got a hit record. So he was free, so he actually came back down and showed us love like we did with him. So big ups to him. We had Brother Jacob, who's another new artist down there. Of course, this past one, we had Linda Clifford to come through there. Curtis Mayfield, the third, was down there from VON, our good friend. I've known Wayne for so long. It's incredible. Wayne Fields, he does a song, show the B-side, I think it's what it's called. And he and I go so far back. My God, he was at KKC with me as well. Of course, Ray Neal from KKC comes over and does a thing. Lord, I can't think of her name at this moment. And she's gonna kill me. But E. Rodney Jones's daughter. She's a friend of mine, and I know she's gonna hurt me so hard, because I'm trying to think of everybody at the same time. Yeah. But she came through there as well, and I'm trying to remember Joe Armstead's daughter's name. She stopped through. Just a number of people. Norman Palm from the Eldorados was down there. Anton Drain, who sounds like Barry White, who did a real big thing a couple of years ago with us when we were with Carl Davis and Shot Sound. Just people stopping in. Just Marvin Smith on the Artistics came through. Just Rick Evans, who was also one of the Artistics that came through. Just people. And a lot of people I know we reach out to when they came. Eddie Thomas, who was Curtis Mayfield's partner from Curtom, Curtis and Thomas. He had the Stair Steps, the Impressions, and all of them. So, the Independents. But just so many people has come through there. It's just hard to remember everybody.
That's all right. I won't force you to remember everyone, but that's quite a list, man. And there's been more and more people just showing up, right? More fans at the store, more people just want to get involved,
Yeah. Because there are people that are actually flying in to the reunion. Like Ruth, she comes in. Renee flies in or drives in. They're out of New York, and then from Portland. What is his name? Avery. I'm losing my mind. Avery.
No worries.
But there's just so many people that's starting to show up from everywhere, not just in the city, but they see it on the thing and they see all the people that are coming. And I think what really sold it was Sil Johnson coming through. Like I said, he had a nice little talk with the audience and then gave a free concert. I mean, you can't beat that. I mean, it's grown so huge.
Yeah.
And I'm loving it.
And what's the next step for the Soul Reunions?
We're not going to change anything. We're going to keep doing it the way we've been doing it, because my philosophy, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So cool. When we start losing people, then we say, okay, now we need a new strategy. But as long as this one's working, I think this one's got a lot more fuel left in it for the fire, because it's steady growing, and we've done nothing different, from the time we started, from the free food and all that.
And the next show is July 19th?
19th.
Okay. And there's going to be a lot of people coming out for that, right? It's going to be nice weather.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We even had Sir Nose from Parliament.
Oh, really?
Stopped in there.
Sir Nose, the Void of Funk?
Yeah. He stopped in and did his little bird call thing. And I mean, it was just, I'm loving this, man. That's really incredible, loving this. And that's just because he heard of it. It's not like any of us reached out to him. He was in the city and heard about it, and he came over. So... you never know. We say that all the time. Who's going to stop in at the reunion? You need to be there. That's what we tell them.
And what else is coming up for the Dusty's crew? You guys got other things planned? I heard you making T-shirts, maybe.
Yeah, we plan to get us some T-shirts. It's time to start being visible. We need to start, showing off a little bit now.
Cool.
Flexing.
How else are you gonna be flexing?
Yeah, we need to get out there and show who we are. Everybody else represents with their jackets and stuff. So it's about time the Dusty crew start doing theirs.
Cool. And is there anything else you want to say about WHPK? You've been here a few years now. Is there something that's unique about this station compared to other places that you've been?
Yeah, I love this because it gives me, everything is so computerized where everywhere I've gone in so long. This is the only place I've gotten to actually bring wax when I'm here to do the show. You know,
Really?
I tell people that all the time, this is a real record in my hand. You know, and sometimes something to skip, or they'll hear little, hisses, stuff like that. So a lot of them are starting to know that we're actually playing records. Gary and I were being records in a heartbeat. But I still bring my laptop, so if someone will call in for a request of something that I did not have, then I'll play it from the laptop and then go back to the records. So, but I love it because, we're not state of the art, but it's just good enough for me to play and give my babies a chance to get out the house, my record babies.
All right. Well, I'll let you have a chance to put your babies back on the air so you can get back to music. What else do you have coming up?
Well, as we continue to move on, I guess we'll get into a little bit of Motown, because I don't play a whole lot of Motown, but, because I'm Chicago and I represent Chicago.